Hello, geography students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for Chapter 8, Section 3, the Caribbean Islands. So let's get started. Number 1, in 1492, Christopher Columbus actually discovered the Caribbean Islands and not the Far East. Today, there are roughly 13 independent Caribbean island countries. Spain had little interest in the smaller Caribbean islands, but the English, the French, the Dutch, and the Danish did. Between the 16 and 1700s, colonies were established and huge plantations for sugarcane were built. The original laborers on these plantations actually came from the Caribbean. They were primarily Native Americans. Exposure to European diseases such as smallpox led to the importation of African slaves. Speaking of African slaves, Toussaint L'Ouverture, who you see pictured here, was a man who was born a slave on the island of Hispaniola, and he ended up helping the people of Haiti gain their independence from France. He became a governor of Haiti. Needless to say, he did this in just a handful of years after the United States had gained its independence. And Haiti becomes the first nation of Latin America to gain its independence from European power. Number 4, Cuba was controlled by Spain, claimed Cuba from the Native Americans. The United States eventually took Cuba from Spain in the year 1898 during what was known as the Spanish-American War. Cuba at that point in time became what is known as a protectorate. It was not made a territory of the United States, but as far as being able to self-govern themselves, that wouldn't happen until 1902. Many Caribbean nations did not gain their independence until World War II. The islands of Martinique and Guadeloupe are still possessions of the French government. Most islanders are descended from European or also Africans, or a mixture of both. So they're either mestizos or mulattoes, depending on the situation. And number 7, colonial heritage reflects the languages spoken in the Caribbean, Spanish, English, or French, as well as a mixture of European and African languages. The Haitians speak what is known as French Creole. Creole as a term is usually referred to a group of people who are basically people who were born in the colonies from European descent. And that French Creole is something that you might hear attributed to the state of Louisiana as well. Many people are Roman Catholic, but Santeria is a blend of Catholicism and traditional African religions. The holiday that is celebrated right before the Christian season of Lent is Carnival. Sometimes we just refer to it as Fat Tuesday or the day before Ash Wednesday. The people of Barbados, they eat what is known as sauce, which is a dish made of pig's tails, ears, and snouts. That's what that is right here. It was developed among slaves because slaveholders ate the best parts of the pig and gave the slaves the leftovers. Puerto Rico is a U.S. Commonwealth. It's self-governing as a territory, and it's also associated with another country. Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, but they have no voting representation within Congress. Though I will say this, the people of Puerto Rico have, in recent years, made the petition to become a state. Whether or not Puerto Rico will become the 51st state of our union, that's a little bit left to be known. Anyway, Puerto Rico's best-known fortress is El Morro. It became a UNESCO heritage site in 1933 and a National Historic Site in the U.S. National Park Service. Foundations were laid in the year 1539. This is shortly after the Spaniards had come into this region. but as a complex, it was not completed until 1787. So, kind of in the early period of like U.S. statehood or nationhood. So, number 13, Haiti is located on the western third of the island of Hispaniola. Its capital and center of industry are in the area known as Port-au-Prince. Haiti is the poorest country in the Americas, and it has led to a refugee crisis. On the other half of Hispaniola, you have the Dominican Republic, and it occupies two-thirds of this island. The capital of the Dominican Republic um, is basically the city of Santo Domingo. It is basically the first permanent European settlement in the Western Hemisphere. And we probably need to change this item out. So, for those of you who are watching, here we go. There you go. Okay, make sure you have that written down properly. And number 15, Cuba is the largest and most populous country in the Caribbean. Life in Cuba today is a little different from um, before the time of Fidel Castro taking power in 1959 because the government controls the economy. Not only does it control the economy, but it controls everything as far as media, your television, your newspaper. There is no freedom of speech in Cuba. People are members of land cooperatives and they are operated for the mutual benefit of people, but they're not really there to make people rich or to benefit foreign companies. Other islands in the Caribbean include Jamaica, which is one of the largest of the remaining islands, St. Kitts and Nevis. They are the smallest country in the Caribbean. They're less than 1/10 the size of Rhode Island. So obviously very, very small. Thank you very much.